Question number 5, Metiria Turei.
Tēnā koe, Mr Speaker, tēnā koe te whare. My question is to the Prime Minister and asks, are Cabinet Ministers accountable accountable to the public of New Zealand for their ministerial decisions?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr Speaker, yes.
Supplementary question,
Supplementary,
Metiria
Mr.
Turei.
Speaker. Have members of his staff advised ministers to answer, quote, no comment to questions in order to shut down reporters who are inquiring into government scandals?
Mr Speaker.
Right Honourable Prime Minister, insofar as there may be ministerial responsibility.
I reject the proposition of the member.
Supplementary.
Supplementary question, Metiria Turei.
Well then, are ministers simply following his lead and responding with no comment to political questions after he refused to say when he first heard the police were investigating Mike Sabin?
Order. I think I'll leave it for the Prime Minister, but there is no ministerial responsibility.
Mr Speaker, when ministers answer questions, as the member will be aware from the Cabinet Manual, they must have regard for the public interest, and sometimes that means it's not in the public interest to discuss some issues at certain points of time. They can include matters of national security, foreign affairs, personal privacy and matters before the courts. Although, in fairness, the member's never been in government and the Greens never have, so they probably don't know how it works.
Supplementary.
Order. 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 Supplementary question, Metiria Turei.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Does the Prime Minister stand by his 2010 decision to publish ministerial credit card usage in the interests of, quote, greater transparency and public scrutiny, end quote?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Speaker, yes, and I think this government has shown how open and transparent it is.
Supplementary.
Order. Order. Supplementary question, Metiria Turei.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Well then, how can the public scrutinise Paula Bennett's management of her ministerial credit card when she responds with no comment to questions about her role and the $1,200 misuse of that card?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Speaker, the member misrepresents Paula Bennett. She doesn't have a ministerial credit card.
Supplementary.
Supplementary question, Metiria Turei.
Is the Prime Minister okay then with the Economic Development Minister not commenting on questions about a $1 million furniture spend up at his ministry? And if so, what does he and Mr Joyce have to hide?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Speaker, in the last part of the question, nothing. And in the first part of the question, I understand he was on a plane, and like a good former Minister of Transport, he'd know the rules that you don't have your phone on when you're in the plane.
Supplementary. Supplementary.
Supplementary question. Order. 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 Supplementary question, Metiria Turei.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. What does his government have to hide now that ministers in charge of billions of dollars of public money are regularly answering with no comment to questions about their spending?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Well, Mr Speaker, the government has nothing to hide. There will be times, as I pointed out earlier, where it's not in the public interest or possible for a member or a minister to answer, but those situations are few and far between if you actually look at the thousands of parliamentary questions, OIA requests and various other written questions that we answer. What I find on this side of the House is we have a team of people who know each other well, work together well and get on well. What I noticed with the Greens is that's not the case with this man overboard, is it?
That's no responsibility. Question number 6, Dr. Parmjit Parmar.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. My question